Greetings and hello. I am Pat626. I regularly host shows such as Subculture Shock, Sundays right here on Twitch. I play a lot of goth, industrial, darkwave, deathrock, EBM, synthpop, and postpunk, and band that I discovered a couple years ago that I've been loving to play the hell out of, Black Rose Burning. And EBM Worldwide contacted me a little bit ago and said, hey, you want to do an interview with them? And I said, hell yeah. So before I begin that interview, I do want to talk about EBM Worldwide, which is a partnership of DJs, fans, promoters, and producers who meet together to support the scene, charity, various causes, including gay rights, animal welfare. Just recently did one to help DJ Noise Shock get a kidney transplant. So you can join the EBM Worldwide Discord for more information. That's discord.io/EBM Worldwide. So without further ado, I want to welcome George of Black Rose Burning to the show. How's it going, George?
Hey, it's going great. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me in the virtual studio. Looks like you're out in space somewhere.
Well, that's, it's kind of my thing, so to speak. I'm digging outer space, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's something that we're going to get to, the idea of intergalactic goth music. But before we jump into that, I do want to do kind of how I normally start off the show, what I call the supervillain origin story. So
they called me Mr. Glass.
That was it.
They called me Mr. Glass. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
So before you even started making this kind of music, how did you get into it? How did you get into goth and post-punk and all of the different influences that have made Black Rose Burning what it is now?
Well, when I was a kid, I grew up like listening to Rush and Kiss and Zeppelin and so on and so forth. But around the time I was, say, around 18, I started working in a record store that I worked in for like three or 4 years. And that's where I really got exposed to a lot of stuff, including goth. That's where I got exposed to The Cure. That's where I got exposed to, pretty much a lot of different music. But that was my first experience with goth. Like I think I saw a Fields of the Nephilim album, and I was like, oh, cool, like what does this sound like? And we would have time at the shop where you'd get your hour to play music. So I was always trying and playing stuff. And as it progressed, I'm into metal. I was into a lot of other things, but I always made it out to the goth clubs and the goth scene. I was known there as well as I was known at metal clubs and hardcore clubs. I'm a music guy. I like music.
So what was it about goth music that particularly kind of drew you to it?
Well, of course I like the theme, I'm a dark theme person, but, there's just a lot of good music out there. And from Bauhaus, like the first time you see Bauhaus, you're like, yo, it's like one of those, moments like, whoa, what is this? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there's just a lot of good music out there. And like I said, I'm a music guy, so.
You're into music, you're into quite a bit of music, and goth music is really like just, whoa, this is fantastic. What makes you want to start making it?
I was in a horror punk band for many years. Many years. Probably started in 1996 and it ran until about 2010.
Okay.
And, I just like dark theme music. I just like the sound. I like the theme. I like the ideas, the concept, the people involved. I like a lot. To pattern my songs and not even necessarily are they goth. They're just I think they're unique and they slip between the cracks of a bunch of different kind of music, goth being one of them.
Okay. And so you started like in horror punk, and that went on for a long time. What made you decide to form Black Rose Burning?
Well, I'd been playing with a band for a while, and I think the songs were good. and I think the playing was good. I just, we just weren't getting along. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So I decided, hey, I could just do my own thing. I've been writing songs for years and years, and no gods, no masters, type of thing. And so I was like, I can do this on my own. And I just started writing for the record, and its sound started developing, and then I had my first record, Year of the Scorpion.
And so let's talk about Year of the Scorpion, because that gets back to how space is kind of your jam.
Right on.
So there's a lot of common themes in goth music. You get a lot of like vampires and demons and blood and night and creatures of the night, and a lot of the more urban fantasy type stuff is really big in goth music.
Sure.
You don't get a lot of goth music that takes its main theme from outer space, from Dune and other such influences. What made you want to write about that for Black Rose Burning?
I think that's something that I could write with honest passion about. Okay. I mean, I could write about monsters, but I've done my last zombie song. I don't want to write, I just don't want to write like that anymore. Okay. And I'm a big fan of Asimov. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Dune. I'm a big fan of space science fiction in general, even from TV, Babylon 5. I
am introducing my fiance to Babylon 5 right now. And
right on.
We just got to season 4, so he is just like losing his mind.
Awesome. I mean, it was well done. It was kind of revolutionary in a way.
Oh,
I mean, as was Firefly. Like these are things that I watch and enjoy with a great amount of fervor and passion. And I know not everybody's going to be a space nerd, so I don't write all my songs about space.
Right.
What I say is it's love. My songs are about love won, love lost, and outer space.
And sometimes all of those things in one song.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about that more, but that does bring up the question of you say that you write it because you write about what you're passionate about and what you feel like you can talk honestly about and what you'll be really into. So let's say that I am like a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. Okay? Which is true. I am a massive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan.
Right.
And I really love goth music. There are going to, of course, be people that tell me, that there's not a place for lyrics about Ninja Turtles in goth. Would you agree with that? Or are you like, hey, if you can be passionate about it, just fucking write it?
I'd say if you can write about it, write about it. I mean, I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like I'm not here to please anybody but myself. Okay. That was part of this whole thing. Like, I don't want to pass my hooks by a board or, pass my bass line by a committee. Like I'm doing this to, really reveal some things about me, as opposed to me being on a team where I'm not respected. And, I say you should just go for it. Like you should just be honest about it. Just be honest about your music. That's all.
I feel like people, even if like, because I'll be honest, the first time I started listening to some song, I talked to you about this before, that it took Ken Magerman pointing out to me that there was Dune influences in Under Twin Suns before I realized, oh, that is totally a science fiction style song.
I'm a huge Dune fan. I mean, There's no question. Anybody that knows me or is in my sphere of being or knowing, they pretty much know that, because like I'm posting about Dune all the time. Like the new one versus the old one. Like I'm pretty passionate about Dune. I'm just pretty passionate about, like I said, sci-fi in general.
So I guess what I mean by that is the fact that I didn't even realize it at first speaks to the fact that what I was picking up on in liking the song was not the sci-fi aspects, but just the honesty of the delivery. you
Well,
can just
thank
tell
you.
when someone's passionate about something. And
Thank you. I appreciate it. And, I think that comes through in the songs. Like, I don't half step it. If the vocal's not quite punchy or not quite happening, I mean, I get it. I do it until it's right. I mean, I know a lot of musicians are like that, but, I really take pride in that. And, I really take pride in the fact that what you hear on any of those records, I can actually do live.
and
Not a lot of people can on that level.
well, and that's actually, that brings up the vocal delivery. This is something you and I were talking about before the interview, but you described your vocal delivery and your music in general as bombastic. And I think that's a good point of like, even on the recording, there is a live feel to it. Like you are really belting your heart out on some of these hooks. Like, have you gotten to the point to where you've like had to stop recording for the day because you got raw voice and had to give it again tomorrow?
On some things, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist per se, but I like to get it. I'd like to think I get it as best as I possibly can. And there were days when I'm basically accomplishing one vocal a day, and then the next day I'll do harmonies or whatever little parts I need to do to warm up for what I'm going to do that day. But there has been, there's a couple of songs where I didn't really nail it the first day, and I had to go back the second and do it again. I mean, I sing a certain way, like my voice works that way, and I can do that same thing live. But like when it comes to a record, you kind of add a little extra magic. You know what I mean? Like you're a little more excited than singing it live for the fifth or sixth time. Like this is going to be the legacy of this particular song, is the way I look at it. So I take a little extra care. I mean, live is live. It comes and goes. As long as you're doing what you did on the record, or you sound, good, you get a little leeway live.
But for the record, it's extra important to you because this is it. This is the version of the song that all of the live shows are going to be judged against.
It's eternal. Yeah. It's also eternal. Somebody unearths this 1,000 years from now, when this planet is a complete husk, and they put this on, like I said, it's legacy, it's eternal. Not that that's gonna happen.
Aliens.
You get what where I'm going.
See, now in my head, I'm imagining aliens finally decrypting the exact code to unlock CDs and what they sound like, and the first thing they put in is Black Rose Burning. Like,
that's perfect.
That's it. That's
perfect.
I am ready for that music video. Let's go.
Perfect concept.
So, you talk about how, in a lot of ways, Black Rose Burning was your ability to just make the music as you want it and not do it by committee. So that's an interesting segue into the fact that you recently released a bunch of remixes of a song off of your first album, and included within it kind of a duet on that song between you and Delphine Coma.
Right.
So in that case, you kind of were allowing other artists to come in and inform the music again. So how was that different than the last time of writing by committee?
I mean, basically all the people who remixed for me, like I didn't do an open cattle call or anything like that. They're all people that I've respected and had correspondence with and were, for lack of a better term, friends with, especially, Andrew Sega. We've hung out many times. He's in the band Hallowed Hearts, which I like a lot, and I'm good friends with those guys. And I respect their work. Delphine Coma, like I'm a huge fan, and and I've been preaching my fandom for years and years. And finally, I just said, "Hey, would you want to remix this?" And he was like, "It'd be an honor." So that meant a lot to me. But the difference is, the track's already written.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like he's coming in and interpreting his version of the track, or Andrew's interpreting his version of the track. And, I've never had it done before, like a remix.
Right.
So it was interesting, especially in the Delphine Coma remix. He took it completely out of the box. And, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that interpretation and these interpretations very much because everybody did something that I didn't think of.
But it's different because in that case, the song already exists.
Yes.
Your vision is already out there and you don't have to pass it through all these people to get there.
Exactly.
Instead, they are it's almost the exact opposite where they have to pass their vision through you.
I allow them to embellish.
Yeah.
And just like when I do a remix for somebody, I consider it embellishment. I mean, the core song is already there. I mean, they've already written the song. They've all probably already put the song into the universe. So I just interpret and embellish. So, and I think that's what these guys did to my utmost joy on this EP.
Okay, so just continuing on this idea of embellishing versus writing by committee, something we talked about before the interview started is just your absolutely breathtaking cover of Shout by Tears for Fears, which is a song that's been covered many times by many different dark alternative artists. But the thing about this one was that it was almost like a We Are the World scenario where you had a bunch of different artists come in and add their own aspect to the song.
It kind of had that feel, like again, all friends of mine from the drums, Brian from Dresden Dolls, Anka from Long Lost, Andrew, and Hallowed Hearts, and Adrian Ochrome came in and did some keyboard on it. It was all friends. I was down. Ashes Fallen, James came in and did some vocals. I mean, these people are professional and good, and the catalyst was just perfect. And I think the end result kind of speaks for itself when, people say to me, I love Shout, but your version stands out to me. That, that means a lot. That means I did it right.
Absolutely. So when you approach for lack of a better term, a seminal classic like that, is there any intimidation of like, there's no way in hell I'm going to measure up to this? Or are you not even worried about measuring up? Are you just worried about, as you put it before with the remixes, embellishing on it?
In all my covers, and I've done quite a few, they've all been received, fairly well. When I did Red Skies, people were playing it all over the place.
Right.
Well, it's different than the fixed version, but it's still Red Skies. You can tell it's still Red Skies. Ever Fallen in Love by Buzzcocks. You could tell it's that song, but it's my interpretation of the song, and people seem to like it. I just think you got to come with something fresh to the cover. Like, there's nothing worse than hearing a cover that sounds exactly like the original. It's just pointless.
Yeah, because I have the original at home.
Yeah, it's like, or you've heard the original a million times. Like, change it somehow. Do something. Right. Make it a little fresh.
Everybody out there currently covering Running Up That Hill because it was on Stranger Things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen to that right now. It's okay if you're all covering it. Just do something different with it.
Absolutely. And I mean, like the first couple of people caught on and did it, and like, at a certain point, it's time to give it a rest. Yeah. Like only so many people can cover it. You know what I mean?
She did write other songs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, her song is the seminal version. It'll always be, just like Shout is the seminal version. Tears for Fears version is like, that's the one that's going to be played into eternity. But it's, it's a song that I really like. I really loved from the moment I first heard it. Same with Buzzcocks, same with Red Skies by The Fix. They're just songs that I loved when I first heard them. So, I figured I would, I've been thinking over years, like, how would I do this? Like I'm singing along with it in the car. Would I put a harmony here? Like it's one of those kind of things. And now I have the opportunity to work like that and showcase that. And that's what I do when I do a cover.
So which do you think is more difficult for you personally? embellishing on something that already exists, or writing your own music whole cloth? Which comes easier to you?
I mean, I think they're relatively the same. I mean, the covers I've done, I already had initial ideas of what I wanted to do. Like how I wanted it to sound and like what the vocal line would be, because, I've been listening to these songs for years.
Right.
And I've been singing my own melodies, and you know what I mean? So, but they're just songs I like. I kind of had an idea. When I start from scratch and writing songs, like I'm about to start to work on the third record in November. That's a little more tricky, I think.
Okay.
That's a little more tricky. I mean, I take notes on my phone. Like I'm constantly taking notes. Like, oh, I have an idea. So I have this phone full of notes that I've taken, and then piecing that together is kind of a mammoth task.
So what comes first usually? Is it the music or the vocals?
It's probably the chorus vocal melody.
Okay. So so let's take a song like The Wheel. All right.
You and I, Time Flies. That melody was the very first thing.
Yeah, and so where does that come from though? Because another thing that you were the first person to ever ask me, and it was before the interview started, but ask me like what particular tracks of yours that I like, which was a great question, a good way to reverse it on me. And so we were talking about The Wheel and how I just love how that vocal line just soars out, and
you make me proud. You make me proud, son. Make me proud.
Well. So like, how it busts out with the turning of the wheel, because you mentioned that for you and I, time flies, but with the turning of the wheel, you just bust out of a cage, basically. How did that just like spring to your head, or did you try a bunch of different Did you try a bunch of different notes before it worked?
I think I sang the melody one time different, that I didn't like as much as that going up thing, turning of the wheel. I think I sang it a couple of different times, and that's the one I ended up liking the best.
Okay.
But essentially, that whole melody was there.
That's just
it was one of these things where I was like woke up in the middle of the night or something, and I said, "Oh, I got an idea," which happens a lot. Or when I'm standing around smoking a cigarette, tend to get these things, and this melody just comes, and I see it through for a minute or two, and then I put it on my phone. That's how it works for me. I don't know why.
So basically, you wake up, you record a melody, you go back to bed.
Exactly. Or I'm on the deck smoking, and I'm smoking a cigarette, and I'm like, oh, this melody, they just come. I don't know where they come from.
They just pop in your head. So
exactly.
So would you say that you just catalog a bunch of them, and eventually they coalesce into songs?
Absolutely. I think that's really my best way of working. It's not always only choruses. It's I'll think of a middle eight, on another day. It's and then I start taking the pieces and saying, oh, this fits with this and this fits with this, and I need a part here. That's kind of the way I write. I don't sit down with the guitar anymore. The guitar is the last thing. Once I figure out how the melodies work together, then I sit down with the guitar.
See, this is amazing to me because it sounds like someone is handing you pieces to a jigsaw puzzle, and you start realizing that they're actually handing you pieces to 10 different puzzles, and you're kind of sorting them out.
That's kind of exactly the way it is. That's a very apt description. I mean, for the past year, I've been doing nothing but singing into my phone. I'll be sitting on the couch with my wife, and I'm like, oh, I got an inspiration. So I'll run into the bathroom, close the door, and sing it. They just pop out of nowhere. So I always have to be ready.
I'm guessing she's really understanding of this then.
Absolutely. She's the coolest. She's the best.
And that brings up a question that I asked Kat Hall last week, because not everyone that you find in the music scene has somebody And
Sure.
and in fact, some people make the argument that it's harder to be a musician in a relationship, or it's harder. Some people have even said to get into a relationship with a musician. Do you find that there are certain demands that being a musician puts on the relationship? And if so, how have you navigated those?
I think in the past, yeah, I mean, I think some people fear your success,
Okay.
or fear that they're gonna lose you due to success or whatever. But like if your relationship's pretty strong and you're like with the right person you're suited for, there really shouldn't be any issues. I mean, you should know each other that well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, only very early in life when I was relentlessly trying to be like, when I was aggressively trying to be a rock star, let's say, and be paid by a record company to do music. There's a few times when I just would, like I'm not interested in what you're thinking. This is what I'm gonna do because, since I've been 14 years old, the music's been my muse, and that's just the way it is. I think I'm a little more flexible in my approach now, but if you're getting a hassle about your music or your art, you're not in the right spot. Then I think.
Right. So you mentioned how that kind of becoming more flexible and also kind of no longer worrying as much about getting like record deals and being a mega superstar helped positively impact your relationship. Did it positively impact the music writing process as well?
I think I've always written kind of in this manner when I wrote songs alone. I mean, I've been in bands where I've written in committee, as I call it.
Yeah.
But as far as writing my own songs, or my own songs to present to whatever band I was in, I've always had this approach has been like pretty much the standard. I think me getting older and realizing a lot of things has had a great effect on my music and how I present it and how I write it. Just because I'm old now. I have no, I can do whatever I want. That's the approach I have to take. Like I don't have to listen to anybody but myself when it comes to one of my favorite things in life, which is making music.
So, and you may have just answered this question. I know that the whole, if you could go back and talk to yourself at a young age thing is super trite and overdone. But is there a lesson that you wish you'd known from the beginning?
I probably would have learned to read music a lot better.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Just because now that I understand harmony, melody, which is a gradual thing unless you really study it. I mean, and even if you study it, it's kind of a gift to be able to utilize it.
Yeah.
Beyond you can learn to utilize it, but it takes a lot longer than if you could learn to utilize it anyway, and you can visually do it. Right. I would have probably learned how to read music because, there's things that I would like to do like beyond this that I feel that I'm capable of doing, but I can only do it by ear, like score something.
Right.
I can hear what the oboe's doing. I can hear what the cellos are doing. Like I can think of this in my brain, but I can't put it on paper.
And that does make it harder to then communicate that to other people.
Exactly. So then you have to do a demo with, wanky instruments and you know what I mean? Like, so this is what I was thinking, but I can't really write it so you can see it. You know what I mean? So I think I would have learned to write music and read music better. And, I can read on a very basic level, but some of the people I know and some of the people I played with, they're geniuses at reading, like you put something in front of them and they kill it.
I have been promoting and occasionally making music for as long as I can remember, and I still have total envy of the people that can just hear a note and go, "Oh yeah, that is high C." Like,
sure.
What?
Sure.
How do you know that?
Well, I think I was a little discouraged early on in terms of writing music because most of the people I know who read music really well when I was younger had no improvisational skills.
Okay.
I mean, I'd say 90% of the people I knew who could read really well could not improvise to save their life. And, rock and roll really is an improv, is really improv a lot of the times.
Okay.
You know what I mean? In terms of writing, or in terms of like, playing live. If the jam goes on, it goes on, or whatever. Some people could only really focus on what was written on the page. And that there's a great skill to that. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
there's an incredible skill. But
it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah, I would like to have a more healthy balance of the two for myself. So, as I said, that's probably what I would do. I would have probably taken learning music a little more seriously. That's probably it.
So for Black Rose Burning, you talked about playing live. Do you do all the instrumentation on the recordings?
We play as a 3-piece.
Okay.
My guitar player, he got pretty well known in a band called World Inferno Friendship Society.
Oh, no kidding! I know people that are huge fans of World Inferno Friendship Society.
Yeah, he that's kind of like the last big thing he was in until unfortunately Jack passed away.
Right.
And my drummer, he's I've known these guys for years. Let's say I've known my drummer for like 35 years. I've known my guitar player for like 25. We play as a 3-piece, and all the keyboards are sampled by my drummer and played to a click. So you'll hear the full bed of keyboards and the band. So it's like I would say we play to a track, but my drummer's triggering it.
So they do that live as well?
Yes.
So
we call the sampler the fifth Beatle. It's like having a keyboard player, but without having a keyboard player.
So since the drummer like manually triggers them, does that leave room for improvisation during the set?
No, where I put the improv comes in is when I've extended solos, but it's all within a very tight framework.
Okay.
Because our drummer plays to a click.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm able to like really make it really tight, because if he's playing to a click, if these guys say, hey, for this show, let's do some. I mean, we have a standard show now, but if they said, hey, we want to do something different with this, I would just rearrange the original arrangement in Logic, and that's the way we play it.
Okay. So, but it is something that kind of has to be decided ahead of time.
Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
So what do you think then? Because this is always a difficulty for the bands that are constrained by the technology a little bit. What do you think makes a Black Rose Burning show so special, that makes it a different kind of special than what we hear on the recording?
Well, I think the vibe, like the vibe we come across with, and a live show's a live show. It's going to be what it is. And, I always try to be as entertaining as possible. And, it's the vibe, it's the feel. I mean, it's not like you're listening to the record, but, you're also getting the feel and the sweat, the agony, the one bum note. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely a different experience than listening to the record.
All right. It seems to me like you're going to agree with me on this one. When you go to live shows, are you actually are you totally cool with those one bum notes?
I mean, it happens.
Yeah, like for me, I almost want to hear the performer, like if I hear the performer strain a little bit on a song, I know that they're really putting all that they have into it right then and there. Because like on a vocal take, you talked about it before, that when you're recording, you have a little extra leeway to put that magic in there and to get it absolutely right.
Yep.
Live, I just want to hear that you're trying your damnedest to get it absolutely right.
Absolutely. Not every night's going to be a perfect night. It's just it may appear that way, that some people are like that. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. But for me, not every night's a perfect night. I just give my best, and I try to be as entertaining as possible. And I think that's all you can do. That's give your best.
Yeah,
give your best and entertain people because they're there to be entertained by you.
So that also kind of goes with what you were saying about making sure that you make music for you. That you make the music you want to hear. In a live setting, though, do you feel like you have any sort of responsibility to make the music that the audience wants to hear?
I do. Like years ago, you couldn't figure this out, but I check what are people listening to on the Bandcamp site? Like, what are the popular songs?
Oh,
and I try to work that stuff in. When I can, like I want the audience to say, "Oh, that's the song I wanted." We're still very early on. We have 2 records. We never play the covers live.
really?
I mean, except Shout. We did Shout for Murder of Crows. But yeah, why am I gonna? Those were fun. Like, I'm not gonna do a cover. I'm not gonna do those covers live. I mean, I have songs.
Right? They're not here to see Tears for Fears. They're here to see Black Rose Burning.
Might as well be a cover band playing live if that was the case.
Right. I think that's really interesting, though. That's a technique that I hadn't heard of before that you can do in the digital age. Is go and look at your own song stats and see which ones are trending.
I look and I say, oh, people are really digging this song, or I get a lot of feedback from like the Bandcamp site. People emailing me, or they tell me what they like about the videos on YouTube, and I compile all that information and I say, well, this is generally what people want to hear from me live. I mean, and then the rest is me.
So you're like, all right, they like this one, they like this one, they like this one, and I like this one, so I'm playing it anyway.
Exactly. Because you never know. If I like it, maybe somebody else is going to say, hey, I never really paid attention to that song, but when I saw them live, it was great.
So are there songs? I know that you want to say that every song you put your 100% into, but what are some of the songs that like, for instance, on the latest album, The Wheel, what are some songs that you just feel like you just constantly nail, that you constantly feel like this is easy to really get into and give your best on it?
I think Solar Angels, the last song on the record. I mean, when I wrote it, I was like beside myself. I mean, I said, oh, this is awesome. Like the call and response, like and nobody, a couple of people have played it. Not a lot of people know about it, but it's probably one of my favorite songs that I've written. There's just something about the way it worked, and may have to do with the way I wrote it and like how the ideas came about, and how it transformed itself from what it originally was. But I think that's a song that not a lot of people pay attention to or know about, but it's like, I think, one of my best songs.
Well, now I have to start playing it more.
It's a favorite of mine. I mean, the subject matter, the hook, I just think it's a good song. I think I wrote a good one.
I think you wrote several good ones.
Thank you.
I mean, so you actually, not only in Subculture Shock, but also like in the after party when I'm throwing in goth tracks, it's often from The Wheel, because there's just so much on that album that speaks to like where I want to see goth music going, because it does have a lot of classic influence in there, but whether it's the bombastic approach to the vocals or the fresh content in the lyrics, I feel like that you're pushing boundaries that other people need to push against.
I wish a lot of people would push their bounds. I mean, everybody's afraid of not of the gatekeepers and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, that kind of stuff doesn't really bother me. Like, I'm not concerned about that, and a lot of people are. I mean,
you've faced gatekeepers in your time, though, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. I faced gatekeepers with this band. I never proclaimed myself to be a goth band. I never really claimed that I was a post-punk band. If anything, I'm a post-punk band.
If we have to come up with a genre. I'm triple post-punk twice removed.
I'm post-punk. I'm post-gothic. But you know, it has those feelies and those tendrils and those tendencies, and you know, that's where my mind is. So hence the final product.
Have the gatekeepers ever gotten you down?
No, I mean, you know, that just doesn't really bother me. But I mean, you know, it exists, and for somebody who's younger than I am or less confident than I am, you know, that could really be a downer for them when they're trying to, you know, achieve something new. I mean, dude, I'm super old, and
right.
It's like, you know, it's like I'm doing what I want to do, and you know, it just so happens that, you know, people took a liking to this,
right?
And you know, and they're liking it as much as I enjoy making it, and that, you know, I can't ask for much more than that.
Absolutely not. I mean, that sounds like the dream to me.
That's the way it goes. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not playing Madison Square Garden, but I know there's a lot of people out there that say, man, I know when I hear that song, I know he's singing it. I know it's him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And something like that is very, if not the most important thing to me. I sound like a certain thing, and it sounds like me.
Oh yeah, no, I feel like there's something gratifying behind someone being able to pick Black Rose Burning out of a crowd. Like
sure.
that lets you know that you are memorable and unique.
I agree. And, you know, I'm very happy about that. And I wish more people would take chances with ideas that they have, so maybe they can achieve their own uniqueness.
I hope so. For those of you watching, you know, if you're thinking about making any sort of music, like you've heard it, whether it's writing songs about space or Ninja Turtles, or just pushing boundaries in ways that might not make sense to others, do it. George told you to. Go out and do it.
Just be serious about your craft. Spend a couple of hours on it every day. Not like, oh, you know, I'll do this when I want to. Like, if you really want to get good at it, you got to spend some time with it. It's like anything, and a time investment is the best thing you could ever do if you want to get really good at something or master something or come close to mastering something. It's all about how you spend your time.
I feel like we're close to like George's Black Rose Burning inspired musical aerobics. Like, instead of doing exercises like, all right, now strum your guitar for
absolutely
for 30 minutes a day. Now move on to vocal exercises. Let's go.
I wouldn't say exercise is unimportant, but if you want to be a musician, all those things should be important to you. You know, just spend the time. It doesn't matter how you spend the time. Spend the time on the guitar. Spend the time on the bass. People say, "Oh, I'm too old. I couldn't pick up a bass now." And I was like, anybody can pick up a bass and learn how to play it. Just got to apply yourself. I don't care if Django Reinhardt had 2 fingers, and the guy's amazing. He's amazing. So there's no reason why other people can't at least be good.
Yeah, you don't even have to be amazing. Just love it.
Just be good, and let some of your you shine in what you're doing. But take pride in it. Like, spend the time and, you know, really take pride in it.
That's the kind of advice I like to hear. So, we've been talking a lot about the various aspects of Black Rose Burning and playing the music in the background. So at this point, I'm sure people that haven't really heard of you before watching this are like, okay, where do I find this music? So where's a good place to get Black Rose Burning?
You can get everything that I've ever done in this incarnation on Bandcamp. It's just Black Rose Burning, one word, at bandcamp.com.
Okay.
blackroseburning.bandcamp.com. And tomorrow is Bandcamp Fridays. Every artist you find or you buy something from, they get all that money directly. They don't give a percentage to the man. They don't give a percentage to the company. They get it all. So if you were thinking about picking up something of a band you heard on Twitch, or you heard on a radio show that you liked, and they're on Bandcamp, they get all the money, which is what I love about Bandcamp.
That's for those of you listening live right now. If you're listening on YouTube, Bandcamp does Bandcamp Fridays regularly, so you can check bandcamp.com for the schedule. Because you can always buy from the artists anytime, but they get the most money on Bandcamp Fridays.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. So, George, was there anything else that you wanted to impart on us before I let you fly off into space?
I just got a couple of shows coming up. Do you mind if I plug them?
Plug them. Plug away.
Right on. We're going to be playing at Prohibition River on 10/22. That's in Nyack, New York. We'll be with Frenchie and the Punk. If any of you guys.
Oh, I love Frenchie and the Punk.
I love them.
Yeah.
I'm old school friends with them, and they just happened to be free, and I was free, and then Freddie booked us. And
they just released something new too, and it's sweet.
Yeah. I love them. They're good folks. We'll be playing at Bar Frida in Ridgewood, Queens. That's also in New York. That'll be 10/28, and we're going to be playing the Spellbound Festival in Carmel, New York on the 29th. Yeah. On the 29th, and that's a Saturday. The first one's a Saturday, the second one's a Friday, the third one's a Saturday. So if you're in those areas, Nyack, Queens, and Ridgewood, or Carmel, New York, we'll be out there.
And if you're not there, travel. It'll be worth it. It's cool. Yeah.
The Spellbound thing is kind of like a spooky Ren Fest.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
So it should be very interesting.
Awesome. You gonna dress up for it?
No, I'm not dressed. I have too much to do this Halloween weekend. Okay. Like that's only going to complicate things. Like I have a show of various degrees with my band or helping somebody out with their band or whatever. Like that whole weekend, so it's going to be a mess. So no, I'm not going to be very Halloweeny this year. Unfortunately,
that's all right. Everybody in the audience can do it for you.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. Well, George, thank you very much for joining me today.
Pat, thank you for having me. I appreciate it a lot.
It was my pleasure. And a reminder that this one was presented by EBM Worldwide. So they're a partnership of DJs, fans, promoters, and producers who meet together to support the scene, charity, as well as a variety of causes. So you can join the EBM Worldwide Discord at discord.io/EBM Worldwide. You can also look up EBM Worldwide on Facebook and Instagram. They've got accounts there as well. So, George?
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining me. Have a great evening.
Thank you, and I appreciate it.